Okay, so if you've been playing Dune Awakening, you probably know that the PvE patch just dropped. And if you're thinking, what even is that? Well, it's basically this massive update that turned half of the deep desert map into a PvP zone. Yeah, you heard that right, half. Now, on paper, it sounds pretty good. Funcom's reasoning was to address a few key things. First up, player frustration. A lot of people found the Deep Desert's original full PvP design just toxic. Constant griefing, getting stomped, it was really hindering the enjoyment for anyone who preferred PvE, or just wanted to gather resources without a constant fight. Then there's enabling endgame access. Funcom wants all players, no matter if you're a PvP chat or a PvE chillout type, to be able to get into and enjoy the endgame content, or more like those sweet rewards. Okay, so that's the theory. That's what Funcom is saying, but here's the thing. I play the new Deep Desert a bit these days and I'm not sure this is the step in the right direction. I mean, I totally get why they did it. It's probably the quickest way to fix a situation that was genuinely keeping a lot of players away from the endgame. And let's be real, that affects sales, because the overall review of the Deep Desert was just, well, negative. Now, the real question is, does it actually fix anything? But you know what? Before we dive deeper into what's changed, let me quickly remind you what the Deep Desert was before. The Deep Desert used to be this genuinely dangerous place. No rules, no laws of Canley, it was full on PvP. You had the A-Row, which was basically the entrance in limited warfare. It had some testing stations and shipwrecks, but none of the real endgame materials and no tier 6 schematics. Why? Because all the good stuff, the titanium, the stravidium, that was found from the middle of the map towards the north. And the deeper you went, the denser those ore became. It made farming up north super risky, but also incredibly rewarding. Plus, most of the medium and large ring mouth spice field were in the area, getting more predominant the deeper you ventured. Now, let me take you on a little journey, a fantasy trip. Let's imagine this Arrakis that Funcom thought they were creating. We've got Joe. Joe is your classic sweaty try-hard PvPer. He absolutely loves hanging out in the Deep Desert, constantly fighting other players, proving his worth. But then, Joe realizes something crucial. To smelt all this amazing ore he's been collecting, he needs loads of water. And his ornithopter just got shot down in the last encounter with another one of his kind. Now over here, we've got Bob. Bob is a miner and a builder. He loves mining and his buggy, but he's not about to risk his precious vehicle in the Deep Desert's chaos. So what does Bob do? He spends his days farming aluminum, grabbing jasmium, and crafting ornithopter parts. It's a simple life and he enjoys it. But man, that endgame stuff Joe's getting? That's really juicy. Bob would love to have at least one set of tier 6 armor and a carrier thopter to move his buggy around while mining. And then there's Tom. Tom is a dew farmer. He's built his base on a massive dew field that gives him access to hundreds of liters of water every single day. It's not much, but it's honest work. He can't even use it all, so he's got this huge excess. But wait, Tom wants some endgame gear too. And those tier 6 Liturgons? Oof, imagine the amount of water he could haul. Now, going back to Joe, he's got a decision to make. Does he go all the way back to Haga Basin, grind out everything he needs to build another thopter and try and get as much water as possible there? Or does he sell some of his hard-earned plastinium tier 6 bars in exchange for what he needs? Lots of water and a brand new ornithopter. Remember Bob? He could use that plastinium for his carrier. Tom wants to move his water easier too. So all they need to do is find each other and, well, communicate. Now, in theory, the original design was a good idea, even if it technically locked PvE players out of some endgame material. It was supposed to promote servers working as a tight community. I'm sure Funcom looked at it and thought, oh yeah, people are creative enough to build a meaningful community and work together to achieve things, right? Yeah, good one, Funcom. Creative? Just look at the amount of bases that are literally just a simple box with a pentashield. I can see this work in some private servers where the goal is to create a community, or some that focus more on roleplay, but to be honest, the game design and the server structure just doesn't allow it. And most people just want what's handed to them. And in their minds, there's only one linear way to get it all, what the game has taught you up until now: questing and farming. Also, another massive issue in these kinds of games is that most players are just hoarders. And honestly, the fact that Dune's entire endgame hinges on the tier 6 schematics and the land strat really doesn't help at all. See, those land strat tasks, they mostly demand items crafted from the endgame components. This means that the groups that are actively engaging in deep desert PvP and the land strat won't be selling their plastanium or any of the raw high tier materials. Instead, they just stash it away for when a task pops up that they need it, leaving PvE players completely locked out of the last row of the research tab. And that can be frustrating. Now, given time, this might have balanced out. The exchange could have eventually been flooded with materials for everyone. But let's be real, people these days just grind through games so incredibly fast that they're left with nothing to do and then they just jump on the next one. And if the endgame is purely PvP, why on Arrakis would a PvE player even bother engaging with it? Alright, now let's cut to the chase and look at the big changes this patch brought. Is this actually going to solve any of these problems? I totally get why Funcom kept the same map and just tweaked the engagement rules for certain sectors. It's the simplest change they could make without having to go back and completely redo maps with a whole new structure. I mean, even before release, Funcom mentioned that they had a bunch of handcrafted maps already good to go for the Deep Desert's weekly wipe. So going back and changing those would undoubtedly take a ridiculous amount of time. So let's have a look at what actually changed. First off, rows A to E are now strictly PvE with limited warfare. This means very few large spice fields, control zones, and big shipwrecks are now the only pockets where PvP actually happens, just like in Haga Basin. This will give people some very limited access to Stravidium and Titanium, which makes the endgame Plastanium. Plus, you now get access to one of the testing stations that's a bit tougher than the ones in the A row, which is actually a welcome challenge. And yeah, it drops tier 6 schematics, so that's something. But in truth, the Deep Desert was originally designed for PvP. And without PvP, it's pretty much an empty wasteland. While compared to Haga Basin, where you had something new at every step, whether it being a camp, a stronghold, a moisture-sealed cave, or Imperial testing stations, the Deep Desert only really offers a few caves and Imperial testing stations for PvE players, with no story behind them or anything, which leaves everything else feeling like a barren wasteland with nothing in it. What made the Deep Desert fun was the constant adrenaline rush, and the doubt of if you'd ever make it back with those hard-earned materials. Now, in my experience yesterday, it looks like people are already setting up their safe bases in the E row of the Deep Desert. And flying from east to west across the whole map, I can tell you I've seen a whole lot of 4 nodes of Titanium and Stravidium. So whoever decides to start farming this type of material in these sectors is going to go through a huge grind, because the middle rows of the Deep Desert have very few spawns of the endgame ores, literally 1 or 2 per outcrop, as this is where they start spawning, and then they become denser as you travel north through the grids. Unlike Haga Basin, where resources respawn fairly quickly, all those Deep Desert nodes will be gone in no time, because remember, you're sharing this world with all the other sieges on the server. The testing station does have instance loot, which means everyone who enters has a chance to loot the chests there once every hour or so. However, these chests will only drop 1 schematic. Now, sadly, this testing station is probably going to become an empty shell, just like the ones in the A row, because if someone kills the NPCs before you go in, you basically just run in, grab the chest, and run out. Very exciting gameplay, right? In the new PvP sectors, everything is going to be very condensed, giving solo players or small groups very little chance to survive or outsmart the bigger groups. I personally farmed plenty of high tier materials out there before, just because I had room to avoid the big guilds constantly flying back to the safe zone through sectors that had no points of interest. Also, most of my PvP bases survived just because there was plenty of room and I could tuck it away under a rock somewhere and smelt my materials in place. But now, I just fear that the northern sectors are going to be overcrowded, making the ganking and the Zerg problem even worse than it is right now. Because condensing all the PvP players in 36 grids instead of 72 is going to make it less of a survival game and more of a deathmatch. Honestly, the problem here is pretty simple, and I've said it before. The Deep Desert just wasn't designed for PvE. There aren't enough interesting spots, enough points of interest to make fighting against the environment genuinely fun or engaging. In the deep desert, everyone's just keeping themselves busy by fighting or evading each other, and that's what makes it fun. It's like a lot of other PvP games. You don't need a massive amount of content to make it enjoyable, as long as you've got the constant competition. You know what I would really like to see in the future? Honestly, I'd hope for a revert back to a full PvP deep desert map, but with a twist, right? Maybe sprinkle in a few points of interest in the PvE area, something akin to the Ironworks in the Vermilius Gap. Players could head there, fight some enemies, loot the chests for some raw materials, and even farm the top of the towers for a few nodes of Stravidium and Titanium. Spice is already available in Haga Basin, so that's not even an issue for PvE players. Now, personally, I actually love that Funcom is listening to the community and trying to make changes. That's fantastic when we're talking about squashing bugs or tweaking balance issues. But I also really dislike it when developers feel pressured to go against their original vision for a game. And I'm really hoping that this is just a temporary fix, a placeholder until something new emerges that can really please the crowds in a more sustainable way. But deep down, I'm a true believer in what another company once said: a game for everyone is a game for no one. What do you think? Does this patch actually address the Deep Desert's design flaws? Or is it just a band-aid on a deeper wound? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. If you want to chat with me or other members of the community, or even play a few games together, be sure to join my Discord server. Or you can also drop by my Twitch live streams. I usually stream 2 days a week, and Dune Awakening has definitely taken over. Can't wait to hang out with y'all. Thanks again, and have a great day.